Have you ever heard a story of loyalty so profound it seems to defy time itself? A story that proves love isn't just something we feel, but something that can quite literally light up the darkness? Well, pull up a chair and listen closely, because today we're traveling to a windswept coast, to a lonely lighthouse, where a tale of unwavering devotion still echoes in the crash of the waves. This is the story of Finn, the dog who waited by the sea. Our story begins with old Thomas, a lighthouse keeper with eyes as gray and kind as the morning mist. For 30 years, he was the steadfast guardian of the St. Jude's Point Lighthouse, a solitary tower standing sentinel against the Atlantic's fury. But Thomas wasn't entirely alone. He had Finn, a golden retriever whose fur was the color of spun sunlight, a perfect contrast to the rugged, rocky shore. Finn was more than just a pet. He was Thomas's shadow, his confidant, his furry first mate. Together, they'd walk the craggy coastline, Finn chasing seagulls while Thomas checked his weather instruments. They'd sit in the lamp room at dusk, watching as the great lens began its nightly rotation, casting its life-saving beam across the churning water. For Finn, the rhythmic sweep of light was the heartbeat of his world, and Thomas was its soul. The lighthouse wasn't just a structure of stone and steel. It was home, a sanctuary built for two. But the sea, which had given them their life, is a fickle master. One autumn evening, a squall, vicious and sudden, blew in from the north. Thomas had taken his small dory out to check a buoy, a routine task he'd done 1,000 times. But this time, the waves rose like angry mountains. Finn stood on the cliff's edge, a silhouette of gold against the darkening sky, barking into the wind, his calls swallowed by the storm's roar. The dory never returned. The townsfolk searched for days. Wreckage washed ashore, but Thomas was gone, claimed by the very ocean he had dedicated his life to watching over. The world moved on. A memorial was placed in the town square. But for Finn, time stood still. He refused to leave the lighthouse. Friends of Thomas tried to coax him away, offering warm homes and gentle hands, but Finn would have none of it. His place was here, on this windswept point, waiting. And so, his vigil began. Every single evening, without fail, as the automated beacon ignited and began its sweeping dance across the waves, Finn would climb to the highest point of the cliff. As the beam of light stretched out toward the dark horizon, a mournful howl would rise from his throat. It wasn't a cry of a normal dog. It was a call, a question, a desperate plea sent out into the vast emptiness of the ocean. "Where are you? I'm still here. I'm waiting." He was calling for Thomas, certain that one day his owner's ship would appear on the horizon, guided home by the light they had tended together. Years passed. The paint on the lighthouse began to peel, and the salt spray etched new lines into the ancient stone. Finn grew older. His once bright golden coat was now flecked with gray, his movements a little slower, but his spirit remained unbroken. He survived on the kindness of local fishermen who'd leave scraps of their catch on the rocks and the occasional tourist who'd heard the legend of the ghost dog of St. Jude's Point. He became a fixture, a living monument to a love that refused to die. Then, a young man named Liam arrived. The lighthouse's automated system had been failing, and the coastal authority had decided it needed a human keeper once more. Liam was a quiet man, seeking solace from his own past, and he'd been warned about the dog. He found Finn exactly where the stories said he would be, a still, golden shape against the gray rock, his gaze fixed on the sea. Liam didn't try to force friendship. He simply existed alongside the grieving dog. He'd leave out a bowl of fresh water. He'd talk to Finn as he went about his duties, his voice a low, respectful murmur. "Keeping a good watch, old boy," he'd say. "It's a calm night tonight." Slowly, tentatively, an understanding formed between them. Finn would allow Liam to sit nearby during his evening vigil, two solitary souls sharing a silent communion on the edge of the world. Liam never tried to replace Thomas. He simply bore witness to Finn's incredible loyalty. One night, the kind of storm that sailors tell stories about descended upon St. Jude's Point. The wind howled like a banshee, and rain lashed against the lantern room glass with the force of thrown stones. Liam fought to keep the light steady, knowing boats were out there, caught in the tempest. And then, the unthinkable happened. With a groan and a shower of sparks, the generator failed. The great beacon sputtered and died. The lighthouse was plunged into absolute terrifying darkness. Panic seized Liam. He knew there was a fishing trawler, the sea serpent, struggling to find its way back to the harbor, lost in the blinding storm without the lighthouse to guide it. He fumbled for his emergency flares, his hands shaking. But before he could act, he saw a flash of gold. Finn, barking with an urgency Liam had never heard before, bolted from the lighthouse door and vanished into the raging blackness. Liam shouted his name, but the dog was gone. Desperate, Liam raced after him, his flashlight beam cutting a frantic path through the torrential rain. He followed the sound of the barking, which led him down a treacherous, muddy path toward a narrow, hidden cove he'd never seen before. The barking stopped. Liam's heart sank. Had the old dog fallen? He pointed his light toward the cliffs, and then he saw it. It was impossible, but it was real. From the mouth of a small sea cave, a soft, warm light began to flicker. It pulsed gently, a steady, ethereal glow cutting through the storm. It wasn't bright like the lighthouse beacon, but it was constant, a pinprick of hope in the suffocating dark. Standing silhouetted in the cave's entrance was Finn, his body perfectly still, watching. Miles out at sea, the captain of the sea serpent saw it too. Just when he thought all was lost, a strange, faint light appeared off his port bow, a light where no light should be. It was just enough. Using that mysterious flicker as a guide, he was able to navigate the treacherous shoals and steer his vessel and crew to the safety of the harbor. When the storm finally broke and dawn painted the sky in bruised shades of purple and pink, Liam made his way down to the cove. The strange light was gone. Inside the cave, he found Finn, lying peacefully, his head on his paws, his old body still old. He looked as though he were simply sleeping. And next to him, half buried in the sand and seaweed, was a waterlogged wooden chest. With trembling hands, Liam opened it. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, was an old ship's lantern and a leather-bound journal. It was Thomas's. The final entry, written with a shaky hand, described how he'd been shipwrecked, how he'd managed to find shelter in this very cave, and how he'd tried, with his last ounce of strength, to light his emergency lantern to signal for help before the sea took him. He'd died right here, waiting to be found. Suddenly, everything became clear. Finn wasn't just waiting for Thomas to return by sea. He was guarding the place where Thomas's journey had ended. For all those years, his howl wasn't just a call of loss, but a call of protection, keeping the memory of his master alive. And on that stormy night, when lives were in danger, a love that transcended death itself had reached across the veil. The mysterious light. Was it Thomas's spirit, roused by his loyal dog's call to action, finishing the job he started all those years ago? Was it a miracle? Or was it simply proof that a love so pure can create its own light? The story of Finn became a legend, a reminder that some bonds are never broken. Not by storms, not by time, and not even by death. They say that sometimes, on the clearest nights, if you look closely at the old lighthouse, you can almost see the faint outline of a man and his golden dog, walking the cliffs together, their watch finally over, forever home. Thank you so much for joining me for this story today. If it touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales that explore the incredible connections we share. Until next time, remember to hold your loved ones close.